Hey, welcome to Cyclone. So here we can see this is what you will notice when you open up, when you very first open it. This is called the Navigator. So it's very similar to ArcGIS's Art Catalog. And so with the Navigator, we can configure ways like how our project can be accessed. It can also be the storage system for all of our scans. So you'll notice that we have servers. So this is how our projects can be accessed. And generally, you would highlight it and then right-click and say Servers. So this is where we're going to be able to set up whether we're in industry or not. There's always two options. There's unshared, and then there's also an option for shared. If you have a shared server, which is if you have several people working on the same project at the same time, you can have that check mark on. If not, then I suggest leaving it as an unshared server, which means it's just accessing your computer. So once you've checked that box with the check mark, you can press close. And then you're going to configure databases. So I'm going to show you two different ways. I'm going to show you how to set up a new one, and I'm also going to show you how to access an old one. So once you've set up the server, we're going to see the computer that's identified here. We highlight it, we right-click it, and you go to Databases. Now here you may end up with several projects that you are working on, and if none of them are the new one that you want to create, you would go to Add, and then you would press the three dots, and then you would create a new database. So here I would go to somewhere that I can find it, and then I would say New Test. I'm going to say New Test 2. So let's say this is my new database. You'll see that it's an IMP file. This is the file that contains all of your information. So it has all of your scans in it. It's going to have all of the registrations in it. It's going to have all of your models in it. So you need to make sure you know where it's being saved. So make sure you check to see where it's saved. Then you're going to click on Open, and then you have to click Open again. You'll find that in the Add Database, you're going to see the new database, and then press OK, and it will come up on your list. Now, if I don't need to access my other projects, I can just leave the check mark here. Then I would press Close, and I would see, once I've expanded the server, that the new database is there. Now, in the new versions of Cyclone, when you right-click on the database, you would have import ScanStation data, and you can import a ScanStation project. This is for all of the like the C10 and the P series of Leica. If you have the BLK360, you would right-click on it, and you would find an option that says Import Manage BLK360. Please go to the YouTube videos that I have referred to in the announcements, and you'll be able to see how you can connect to the BLK. So once everything's been imported, then you would be able to use this database. Now, if you already have a database that you want to access, you would right-click this and go to Databases. Now, if it's already in the list, all you need to do is put a check mark on it and then hit Close. Then it will switch it around, and then you'll have your project that shows up. If you need to find it because you don't have it here, you would right-click on it, go to Databases, and then go to Add. Once you've gone to Add Database, you would press the three-dot button, and then you would find your project where your IMP file is. Once you've found the IMP file, you can, so for example here, that one doesn't have any. Here's my IMP file. I press Open, and then I would press OK, and now it comes up on here. So that is, and then I would leave it checked on, and then I would hit Close, and it would show up in my Navigator. Now, to actually look at your scans, you have to press the plus button, and that one doesn't, it has an error in it. Press the plus button, and then you would press the plus button, and you would just keep pressing plus buttons until you get this list. Control space I suggest never touching unless you are absolutely required. This is your original observation data. This is the stuff that is If you change this, you change all of your observation data. So I strongly suggest avoiding control space as much as possible unless you need to. Then we have model spaces where you would do all of your work. Then you'd have scans, which is all of the scan stations. If you have an error in your scans, such as overlapping scans, you would go in there and that's where you would modify it. And then there's images, which is also the photos that have been taken from the optical camera. So let me press model spaces, and then we'll get model space 1. If there is no plus button beside there, you would right click it and say create and open model space view. Otherwise, you press the plus button and you'll get a little eyeball looking at a square, and you would double click on that. That is called a model space view. So here we have a little room, and in the room we can move in there and we see lots of detail. So this one has the aerial, or not the aerial, the optical camera's photos already on there. If I switch it to intensity, now it'll show me the intensity values. So these are all ranked from 0 to 255, just like a digital number. So that's how you would view your scans. You can also increase your point sizes or decrease your point size. You can switch to black and white, which is just the intensity in black and white without the rainbow added, or you can go back to intensity, or you can use the photo that is on top. Now, depending on your preference, you can definitely use any of them. My preference is usually using the intensity values because it really stands out and it's easy to see, and I am able to work easier with it. So that is how you would view your point cloud, being able to move around it. You can pan, you can use seek, which is this little gun sight. So you press S on the keyboard, and then it allows you to move this little arrow around. That arrow is what everything rotates around. So if you need to move your rotation point, you can move it. If you need to zoom in and out, that's where it zooms. So if I'm over here, I can zoom in, and it's always going to zoom into that cross. So that is model space. That's the simplicity of it. Obviously, there's many other options up top here that we can play with, and I could spend days introducing it to you. But that's just a quick introduction to how you would bring in a database, and my next videos will be how to create registrations and do registrations.